Be careful where you step. You don't want to go into a grave.
Officer Josh Wilcox knows how to find lost graves.
They're marked with rocks at the top.
He can see signs of graveyards through years of decay.
There and there.
Here he shows me what looks like shallow ditches in the ground where people were buried hundreds of years ago in Houston County. But he says this small family cemetery you see here, with graves predating the Civil War, is in danger of being lost to time forever.
This is what I would call a neglected or even an at-risk type cemetery.
Ellie Loudermilk with the Perry Area Historical Society says grave sites like this one are all over Houston County.
But there are so many more that are in the woods. They're overgrown. They're just lost. We'll call them the lost cemeteries.
She and Wilcox explain that unlike Macon, where large cemeteries like Rose Hill were started early on, there was no large cemetery in Houston County during the 19th century. So everyone just buried their dead on their family land, leaving small historic cemeteries like these scattered across the county.
The families, they die out, they move away. These type of places are forgotten about, and you wind up with something like this.
Graves left to the elements.
You can see some of the stones have been broken and damaged. Now this type of damage here probably came from fallen trees or fallen limbs.
Some marking where veterans of the Civil War and beyond were laid to rest.
We have commissioned officers from every war, including the Spanish-American War, the War of 1812.
And all the development in Houston County can put these cemeteries at risk.
Those places aren't documented and they're not protected. You could have things like the highway that goes right across the top of them. There have been subdivisions and highways and thoroughfares built on top of these cemeteries over the years.
In 1991, the Georgia State Legislature passed the Cemetery and Burial Ground Protection Policy Act, which makes it illegal to disturb graveyards. So developers can't knowingly build over graveyards now. But what state laws don't do is set any buffers or boundaries around these graves. Check out this development in Warner Robins, just a few feet away from a historic cemetery. Warner Robins Mayor Randy Tom says they're trying to balance growing economic development with preserving the past.
It's a delicate balance maybe, but I think that there can always be a way that you can have development but still respect and honor the cemetery itself.
Tom says in some cases, having a building nearby a cemetery may help the graveyard be better kept. State Representative Robert Dickey, who has a 200-year-old family cemetery on private land, says he'd be open to new laws better protecting these cemeteries.
I think a compromise for some sort of small buffer could be worked out possibly without interfering with private property rights.
But even with state laws, if graveyards aren't clearly marked, developers could easily build over a cemetery without even knowing it's there. And neglected historic cemeteries can still be vulnerable to vandalism and theft.
Actually, within the last year, someone tried to dig into this grave here and actually broke the stone in half. Still happens quite frequently. There's a black market for antiquities. There's a black market for anything that has to do with the American Civil War.
Preservationists say the best protection for these historic sites is you.
This is one that's in an active state of restoration and preservation.
Wilcox says groups of volunteers have come out here to clear away brush and restore the graves.
When they got here Saturday morning, it looked like that, and now it looks like this.
Several soldiers who fought in the American Civil War are buried here. Now, thanks to volunteers, their legacy will be preserved, protected from being buried under centuries of obscurity. Eric Mock, WGXA News.